Hi there, welcome to Phuket News TV for this week's Phuket News Review. How you doing, Simon?
Good, thank you.
Managing editor of the Phuket News, and once again we have a copy of the Phuket News which you can get from any good store outlet.
All good stores.
Exactly. Around the island, over 600 for 20 baht a copy. So front page of the Phuket News this week, Bangla boiling. Now this is basically about the corruption behind the 2 a.m. curfew, people wanting money for other people to stay open. What's happening?
It's, as the headline hints at, so Bangla boiling, about it's been revealed that the rampant corruption that goes on behind the scenes in Patong. I think a lot of people had an idea there was money being paid, backhanders, and it is related to the 2 a.m. sort of, not exactly a curfew, but the limit placed on businesses operating. And if you go down to Bangla, you know that businesses are open late into the morning, but that's actually illegal. They must close at 2 a.m. That's the latest they can possibly be open. So that, how are they staying open longer? Well, there's, as I say, it's alleged there is corruption.
And is it all the businesses, or just a
we can't say all
few?
of the businesses, but if you walk down there after 2 o'clock and the place is open,
everywhere's open.
That's illegal. So you could be your own judge of that. But it's revealed basically it was an anonymous letter complaining that, or naming a certain individual as being a middleman for money passing from bar owners, business owners, to members of the government.
Right.
And
17 people, 17 different people.
17 different people, different departments, different government departments, and they say up to 50 million baht a month is being paid.
That's like $1.5 million.
Yeah.
A lot of money to 17 different people.
Yeah, so it's a huge amount of money. But in the story we kind of look at the reason behind that. Obviously there is a demand for these businesses to be open later in the morning. So why not actually make it legal? Why not designate Patong and Bangla Road as a special entertainment zone and legalise it, and then the government could get taxes from these businesses, as opposed to having it all sort of done under the table on the black market. Okay,
is it to keep them open past 2 a.m. or is it just to keep them remain open as businesses? No, I mean, as far as we're aware, it's basically to be legally open past the official closing time. Okay, and how long do you think this has been going on for? I mean, there's always been it. Since people have been coming to Patong, I would imagine. Who are now paying. We're not sure of that in the story, but like if I was to speculate. And they're now the ones, tourists and people that go to Patong, are really paying through the nose to keep it open. Yeah, but I mean, it's demand and supply. So as long as the tourists demand, the bars to stay open longer, then the bars will have to find a way to do it. Right. Okay. And there's more on that story on page 2 of the paper. Okay. Another shocking thing that happened this week: man runs in front of car. It happened to a German expat. This is also on page 2. Bizarre incident. They don't know whether it was he was drunk or whether it was a suicide. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? Well, yeah, he was just a German man, just driving and down the road, and all of a sudden a man just ran out in front of his car, out of nowhere for absolutely no reason. And yeah, I mean, he wasn't immediately killed, but the thought was it a suicide attempt? Was it he just wasn't looking where he was going? I mean, it was just another reminder to be very, very careful when you drive on the roads. Yeah, this has happened down in Katu. Whereabouts in Katu? Not far from the office here, actually. Tesco Lotus, Katu Road. Yeah, and he is recovering now. The man is recovering, but it's still have to find out exactly what happened and why did it happen, yeah. Page 3 of the Phuket News this week. It's a bit raunchy. Yeah. The ad is full page and very raunchy. What is Phuket's newest dirty club all about, Indigo Pearl? Well, it's not a news story, but it could be after it happens. But yeah, it says Phuket newest dirty club. This is an initiative by Indigo Pearl, right? Up in the north of the island, basically launching a new series of themed dirty nights. Yeah, and apparently women that dress dirty will be able to get drinks for 50% off. But that could mean anything. All night. Yeah. Yeah. Like so we were just saying before the show. Yeah, you could go unwashed. Maybe you could smear mud all over your t-shirt. I mean, what's the definition of dirty? But go dressed as Christina Aguilera. Possible, or Miley Cyrus. Right. Yeah, especially after this week. Maybe twerk a little as well. Yeah, it sounds fun. It sounds quirky. It's an interesting initiative. So after it's happened, we'll certainly have some photos if they're decent enough to publish. Right, there you go. 50% off just by dressing dirty at Indigo Pearl's newest Dirty Club. So if you grab a copy of this week's the Phuket News, you will see that they're all throwing
liquidate each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so going to page 7, Italian man. Now, he's been stealing some cash from a temple in Caron to buy a meal.
Not once, but twice.
Right.
So there's a temple in Caron, and the monks had money stolen before, and so they installed CCTV cameras so they could capture anybody who was approaching the temple donation box and see who was taking money from them. And they probably weren't expecting it, but they caught an Italian man on tape stealing 100 baht from the donation box. And actually on this occasion, then he left and they weren't able to accost him. But the guy came back at exactly the same time on another day. This time they called the police, came and arrested him. And he confessed the first time with the 100 baht that he'd use it to buy a meal.
Okay, but he's been quite creative on how he's stolen the cash as well.
Yeah,
right?
He come prepared. I think it was
Very
a
prepared.
couple of knitting needles and some gum,
Yeah.
and was basically sort of fishing for cash.
Now, this is quite a really, really disrespectful thing to do in Thailand. His wife's reacted quite badly to it.
Yeah, well, I think her reaction was, yeah, we're poor, but we're not that poor.
Yeah,
and to
quite
be stealing
desperate.
money from the monks for a meal. Yeah, definitely down on hard times, and now things are going to get worse. Obviously, he's been arrested for it.
You're right. Okay, not really worth it. But also, we've got in page 7 this week a good cab story once again. Shining a good light on a Korean tourist praising the honesty of a taxi driver. Now, what's happened here? Someone got something returned?
Yeah, no, a South Korean tourist basically hired a car to drive him around for most of the day. And then at the end of the day, she left her bag in the car. Never thought she would get it back again. But the driver actually turned it into the police. And then the lady was reunited with her money, and nothing missing, everything was there.
Wow.
So it's nice. And often we do report sort of negative stories about transport and taxis. So it's really nice to be able to this week to promote something on the positive side.
Yeah, definitely. And like the tuk-tuk drivers last week, playing golf.
Yes.
Another nice story for the taxi drivers. Now, we've got life as well. Life we've taken out already, which is in here. First of all, I just want to talk to you about haircuts. Now, the cutting truth. Now, there's a little fact on page 2 that why can't people get haircuts on a Wednesday in Thailand?
Well, I mean, for anyone who's ever tried to go and get their haircut, and especially sort of our expatriate viewers, they may have gone to the barbers and been told, no, you cannot have your haircut, or they're just not even open on that day. And we were kind of curious about this, so we asked one of our reporters to look into it. And as it turns out, historically, apparently the king used to favour having his haircut on a Wednesday. So as a sign of respect, barbers would close down just in case he chose them to cut his hair. Yeah, and also just because if the king's having his hair cut, then you don't want to sort of deflect away from that on that day. Not sure if that's still the case or not, but it's become like a tradition and a custom. I mean, interestingly, we found out through the investigation, a lot of Thais were unaware why it was so. They just knew that you could not have it done on a Wednesday, but not why you could not have it.
But they never knew the reason.
No, especially the younger generation. So we had to speak to sort of grandparents and people to find out. There is another reason too, which is because Wednesday was traditionally the day of harvest for agriculture. And because it was a day of growing things, of pulling things, that cutting was the opposite. So to have your hair cut was kind of inauspicious, unlucky.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
And quite respectful as well. And that's in life, so I guess you're putting a lot of cultural insights into the people.
This will be a regular thing, at least once a month, where we're going to look into something unique about Thailand that people don't know.
Excellent. Yeah, my Thai's coming along now too. I'm trying to do new words every day, so it's good to know some facts about where you're living as well. And page 3 on life, Don Battles, first Farang restaurant owner in Phuket.
Yep.
We've done a little profile on him here. What's this all about?
Yeah. So I mean, that is his name, Don Battles. It's not the headline of the story.
No.
He's also on the front page of Life, and we have the headline, The Don, which says it simply. But
there we go.
for a lot of expatriates in Phuket, the late 90s, early noughties, he was a very well-known figure around the island. And as you say, he opened up one of the very first Western restaurants in southern Phuket, like outside of the hotels, like a standalone place where you could just get more comfort food and things like that. It was simply known as Don's Cafe, or just Don's, as everyone knew it.
In Rawai?
In Rawai. And then later on he opened up a mall, which had like a sort of supermarket and cafe and everything like that, Don's Mall. Sadly, that closed in 2010.
Yeah.
So for people who arrived after that, which includes myself, we didn't have the chance to experience it. But for people who've been here longer than that, certainly they'll know who Don is. And this is a chance for them to kind of find out more about how he came to be here in the first place. But remarkable story.
You made a good point before about how many options we now have in Farang food on the island. Since I mean, this is the late 90s when he came and set up his restaurant on the island in Rawai. Since then, I guess he's seen. Does he talk about a lot of the changes on the island?
Well, he's actually moved away now. He lives in Chiang Rai.
Right.
So he's kind of moved on from what he did here. But certainly for people who do arrive now, including myself, just there's so many places to choose from in terms of Western restaurants, in terms of dining. And it's very difficult to imagine a time where you had to choose between two places and that was your option.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it shows how Phuket how far it's come.
And I can shamelessly self-plug, you've also got a dining guide in the Life.
Yeah, every week.
Magazine.
Yeah, sort of Phuket's best restaurants. Yeah, nice. Information and contact details.
Okay, so that is the Phuket news for this week, which is out now at over 600 outlets, 20 baht a copy, and a good read for your weekend. And thank you, Simon Ostheimer, Managing Editor of the Phuket News, and we'll see you next time.
Dankeschön, Kirsty, Meyer.
Thank you.